Good morning. Yesterday, as requested by Pastor Mike, I provided an overview of the structure of the United States government for our reflection as we focus this week on our dual citizenship, both as believers and as those who live in the United States as citizens. By review, I said yesterday that some confusion can occur when we use the term government or governing authority. The key takeaway on that point from yesterday was this. In the United States, the ultimate government is not a person, elected, appointed, or otherwise. In this country, the ultimate authority, and therefore the essential meaning of the word government, rests instead on the United States Constitution. So let me say it again, just for emphasis. The ultimate government of the United States is the Constitution, not a person. Building on that today, I'll briefly survey the following three things. First, I will review a governing principle introduced in the 17th century by Samuel Rutherford. Second, I will explore several sections of Article 1 of the Washington State Constitution. Lastly, I will re-ask questions that we would do well to ponder and answer before the curtain closes on our opportunity to do so. Let's jump in. In 1644, a Scottish minister by the name of Samuel Rutherford published a book by the title of Lex Rex. The book, written in English, was published with the subtitle The Law and the Prince and was intended to be a comprehensive defense of the Scottish ideal in politics during his day. Rutherford's essential point is emphasized actually by the title of the book itself, and here's why. The word lex is Latin for the English word law. The word rex is Latin for the English word king or prince. Rutherford explains in his book that there are two essential approaches to any government structure. One approach is lex rex, meaning that the law is the king. Lex, the law, is primary, and rex is secondary. In other words, the law rules over everybody, and that includes the king. Rutherford described it the opposite, namely rex lex, meaning that the king is the law and therefore rules over the law, is an unstable and dangerous to the welfare of those governed. He stated that any system of governance where the priority is rex over lex, where the ultimate authority lies with the king, puts the whole system at risk of abuse by the person in leadership. Rex lex, the king is the law, is ultimately subject to the changing moral and practical whims of a person, rather than on the relative stability of a set of laws, such as a constitution. So whether they acknowledged him specifically or not, the founders of the United States agreed, at least in principle, with Rutherford's approach. Our founding fathers established a constitution that is the basis for every citizen and which identifies responsibilities and limits for every elected or appointed person in our governing structure. To be clear, it cannot work both ways. The government must either be lex rex, where the law is in charge of the king, or rex lex, where a person, the king, is in charge of the law. Our principle, adopted by the founding fathers, was lex rex. The Constitution is king, not the other way around. That leads us to a second topic, a brief look at several sections of the Washington State Constitution, because we've already looked at the national U.S. Constitution. As I said yesterday, at the state level, a requirement of a state being admitted into the U.S. was compliance with the foundation of law established by the U.S. Constitution. Each state's government must be subordinate to and support the responsibilities, rights, and limits expressed in the U.S. Constitution. Therefore, we find many parallels between our state and the nation's constitutions. So our state, let's take a look. Our state's constitution preamble says the following. We, the people of Washington State, grateful to the supreme ruler of the universe for our liberties, do ordain this Constitution. We see in this a recognition of the divine source of our liberties, that our rights and freedoms are not granted to us by a governor or any other government authority. Rather, it affirms that our freedom comes from our Creator. Section 1 of the Article 1 states the following. All political power is inherent in the people, and governments derive their just powers from the consent of the governed and are established to protect and maintain individual rights. This statement reflects the principle that we, the people, are the centerpiece of the purpose and existence of our constitutional government. The elected officials are chartered with the weighty responsibility to protect the rights of the citizens of the state, our rights, and not the other way around. Section 2 affirms the central point of the discussion yesterday and one of Rutherford's lex rex principle. It states that the Constitution of the United States is the supreme law of the land. The Washington Constitution unequivocally affirms that the law, the constitutional law, is the king. Or in our case, the governor is not the law, the Constitution is. Our state constitution clearly affirms that when we use the term the government, we're ultimately referring to the Constitution of the United States and subordinate to that, our state constitution, and not to a person. Section 4 of our state constitution says the right of petition and of the people peaceably to assemble for the common good shall never be abridged. This is parallel to the First Amendment at the national level, the right of the people peaceably to assemble. And once again, our state affirms the primacy of the U.S. Constitution. It states, at least in part, absolute freedom of conscience in all matters of religious sentiment, belief, and worship shall be guaranteed to every individual, and no one shall be molested or disturbed in person or property on account of religion. It could not be clearer. The freedom to practice one's faith is a fundamental tenet at both the state and national level. These rights are specifically guaranteed in both the U.S. and state constitutions. It's therefore with emphasis that I come to my third and final point. We must answer several questions. Number one, since all citizens, including all elected officials, are duty-bound to uphold the U.S. and state constitutions, can any single elected official create an order that does not respect freedom of religion? Number two, can any elected official establish an order prohibiting the free exercise of religion or abridging the freedom of speech? Number three, can any elected official restrict the right of people peaceably to assemble? To be specific, if we understand that government is vested in the state and national constitutions, not in any elected or appointed person, we could ask ourselves this: do any of the current COVID-19 orders potentially violate the government, the constitutions of the United States and the state of Washington? These are questions that as citizens and as people of faith that we must answer before, as I said at the outset, the curtain closes on our opportunity to do so.